Hey, welcome to my channel, Save Infinity. In this video, just wanted to kind of briefly discuss the idea of, traversing through different timelines, or whatever you want to call it. Only take what resonates and such, and, disclaimer, I'm no expert in this area or anything, so I don't know how accurate or true what I'm saying is. It's just from my own experience and observations and learnings and things like that. I trust that this video will, only find those that are ready and receptive for such ideas, and in a way that it will be beneficial to themselves and those around them, and not in a way to cause harm at all. But as they, I feel like it is like a sea of infinity that we kind of are like living in and experiencing through, almost as they say, like everything already has been created and there's infinite options and such. And it's kind of like we're like traversing through those possibilities to kind of like direct our own like movie of life, if you will. And so I feel like, often the possibilities and such that are drawn to us are, usually based off things of like our energy state and, our beliefs, our understandings, things like that, things that will make logical sense for, our own mind and for our reality and such. But I guess just, like the idea of, even people, like there's, infinite versions of them out there doing infinite things as well. So, I feel like generally we aren't, traversing too far between timelines or anything like that. For example, if you have a friend coming over, maybe there's a version of them that puts on a red jacket, or there's a version of them that puts on a blue jacket, and that could be, a different reality, but they're both essentially the same person still, like they still have the same memories and recall of the past. It's just, that slight different in infinite possibilities that could be drawn to you for your experience. But then I feel like sometimes there can be like bigger, more drastic changes, but they don't tend to come to us unless it kind of will make logical sense for us, as to not like overburden or bewilder our mind, that we kind of, freak out or are like, what's happening? Or, for example, sometimes people, when you might talk about things in the distant past or whatever, you might have a memory of doing something that they just can't quite remember. Like they, I can't remember doing that. Or maybe you remember slightly different version of events, and you can just put it down to, like our memory fades, or, we forget things, but I feel like sometimes it could just be literally that it was just another infinite, you've just come from slightly different like versions of reality or slightly different timelines and emerging together at that point in time, almost like you're kind of constantly traversing through infinite timelines and conversing with infinite versions of people that like obviously is all still them, but I guess that idea of how we're all kind of just God consciousness or consciousness or what have you, like in a human vessel, traversing through infinity, but that we're usually kind of traversing through, a pretty straight line, so as to not cause confusion or bewilderment to our own like mind or experience, or other people's minds or experiences or things like that. Even the idea with like near-death experiences or things like that, where people experience like dying but then being brought back to life or what have you, and I don't feel like that it's necessarily that like their dead body was like magically healed or something, but more so that they were just booped to another timeline, like where they didn't die. Even, just for my own experience, I feel like I've experienced something like that myself, where it felt like I died during childbirth, but then I came back, and things after that in my reality were just slightly different, and like some people in my reality that I knew just seemed a little slightly different ever after that incident. That makes me feel like, maybe I did do a bit of a jump to another timeline where I didn't die, but where the people in that timeline were just a little slightly different, or had gone through, slightly different things possibly than the timeline that I was on before. And so, yeah, I feel so often as well, our mind, or however it works, or however it is manifested for us, but that it's generally done in a way that it won't like bewilder or overwhelm you or cause too much confusion that, you're then gonna have a complete mental breakdown or wonder what's going on. And so, whereas through things like, say, a near-death experience or what have you, that can kind of allow you to take a bigger leap or jump between the infinite timelines or realities, because you kind of have that experience to kind of give you a bit of grounding as to why things might feel a bit different. And so I feel like through the process of awakening and such, where we kind of broaden our mind to these sort of different ideas and become more grounded in accepting those sort of possibilities, the more that you're able to kind of experience greater jumps and leaps in your experience, in your reality, traversing through these infinite possibilities, because you do have a better understanding. It's not going to cause too much overwhelmingness for you. I guess, if you suddenly made a big leap to a different sort of reality or timeline where someone you knew had a completely different recall of the past than you, you both recalled completely different memories or events. If you didn't have an understanding of how or why that could happen, that could cause like a complete like mental breakdown for somebody, right? So I feel like it's in that aspect, you're kind of safeguarded in that way generally, and why things are kind of generally manifested for you in a way that kind of makes logical sense, that it doesn't like bewilder your mind or experience too much, and it's kind of like still digestible for you. And I guess kind of like have the idea as well of that, everyone and love, like the purest state form of them already exists in heaven or exists with you in your heart. So you can energetically connect and tap into those energies at all times. How people or like psychic mediums and such like that are able to like kind of like tap in and communicate to like spirits or people that have passed on and what have you, is because we all do kind of hold that infinite energy or infinite, source energy or God consciousness or whatever you want to like describe it as, like within yourself, kind of like what we are, manifested in this human vessel traversing through infinity. And, I guess kind of leads to the idea as well, how they say to, not become too attached to certain things that have happened or things that could happen, or versions of things, because it really is like a sea of infinity that we're traversing through in this life experience, and it doesn't really hold too much weight on the eternal like energy of us all being like the one mind. And kind of, I feel like how they kind of say in that aspect, how you never truly are alone in that aspect, because you really do have, the eternal source energy within yourself that is like, everyone and everything in existence manifested as you, kind of like how they say you're the whole ocean in a drop, what have you, and then, when you die or what have you, you return back to the whole ocean, almost like, we all are just this one consciousness, split, put down into like these human vessels to kind of traverse through these experiences. So, I feel like that kind of, leads back more to the idea as well of the whole idea of kind of just, letting go a little more, relaxing a little more, and having a little more fun, with life and with your experience. because it really isn't as as set in stone and as needing to be a particular way as we so often tend to look at it. I feel like there really are infinite potentials and infinite possibilities, even with all the people that you know and love. So not feeling like you need to be too attached to certain aspects, and instead kind of allowing what's best for you to flow to you, and doing so with a more open mind, that you are able to draw those different aspects of reality in. Whereas if you're too attached to certain things in the past or certain things happening, you're kind of ridging yourself to a very narrow pathway through infinity, rather than being able to like expand yourself to a lot more of those infinite possibilities that can come into your experience. And I guess also, the importance of like grounding and things like that with certain experiences to enable bigger changes or such to come into your reality, if that would be beneficial for you, without you becoming like too bewildered by it as well. It's like the possibilities really are endless of where we can be taken, and the pathway you've come to become where you are right now really is like so unique to you, and it gives you a bit of backstory and a bit of idea of the possibilities of where you could go next. But it also doesn't need to really hold you rigid to any sort of certain outcomes either. You can kind of just let that go a little more to allow yourself to flow more into that sea of infinity. And so I really do feel, that's also important to, note the aspect of love over fear, and just keeping in like a calm, energetic state and things like that. At least generally, like, still get excited and feel your emotions and sadness and what have you. But just, generally day to day, being in a more calm and receptive state in order to bring in more calm and receptive timelines for you, rather than bringing in chaotic timelines for yourself, or, versions of infinite reality. And really being connected to that inner light of God within yourself, that holy kingdom within yourself, as it is within yourself, that is your true constant state, whereas the outside reality is constantly flowing and changing and forming around and for you. You really do hold all the power and knowledge and wisdom within yourself. It's just learning how to tap in and integrate that for yourself. And the importance also of not getting too hung up on or overwhelmed or what have you with certain experiences that may happen or manifest in your reality, as time heals all wounds, as they say, but also just because there really is a sea of infinite possibilities, and every moment is a new moment for you to step forward into a new pathway or experience new things. And so, you don't have to rush so much. We're having an infinite experience here. Time is technically an illusion, as they say. So don't be afraid to just take your time with these sort of things and journeys as well. And, take time to smell the roses, as they say. You really, just because something has happened to you in your life, that doesn't necessarily mean that's setting you into a certain aspect of reality. Like, you really can tap into so many infinite potentials for yourself at any point in time. And also, the importance of, I guess, not focusing too much on other people's realities, because there is also, an infinite version of them out there experiencing an infinite version of things. So really, like, your experience going through infinity is kind of like the most important thing, and should be your main focal point. You know, not in a way of becoming completely selfish or greedy, but I feel like, you know, at least that 51-49 type rule is a good idea, where you give 51% of, you know, the energy and effort, or, you know, thought around reality and such towards yourself, and then 49% towards creating experience for others, but putting at least 51% of the priority on yourself, because at the end of the day, it is your journey is your journey. You know, you're the one that is kind of, you know, traveling through your path. And I guess, you know, not allowing yourself to get too hung up on the negatives and such of other people's experiences and such, because as I said, you know, that really is a sea of infinity. So there's versions of them out there where, you know, great things are happening to them as well. But, you know, also to not just completely brush all those things off either, because by taking care of those things and those energies also helps increase and manifest better experiences for yourself. And, you know, we don't want to be living in a world where terrible things are happening to people around us. But, you know, by focusing on yourself as well, at least with, you know, 51% priority, not going too overboard and just 100% focusing on yourself. But the more you're also gonna, you have a happier, aligned experience for what you want, the more you're going to be likely bringing in people into your reality that are also the same, because, you know, it's like you're manifesting that sort of happy, content energy for yourself, which then manifests it for your reality, which includes others. Rather than, you know, getting too caught up on the loop of what's happening outside of you, you know, and instead taking a little more time to tend to your own inner garden, which is then kind of, you know, fruiting out from you into the reality you're experiencing. You know, I guess that idea of like kind of, you know, being the main character in your own movie of life, rather than being, you know, just a side character in someone else's movie of life. You know, not in a complete overboard selfish way or a chaotic way, but just in a way that, you know, you're enabling yourself to get the best potential for yourself, that then allows you to you know, share that energy of potential with others around you. Whereas if you're kind of, you know, not manifesting the best experience for yourself, you're likely going to draw in experiences that aren't the best for those infinite possibilities for those around you as well. If that makes sense. Yeah, I won't delve too much more into this topic for the moment. But I thought just like, you know, a brief little discussion about it, kind of, you know, conceptualize the idea and just kind of, you know, expand our minds a little bit on the idea and the possibilities of infinity, and of, you know, our reality that we find ourselves in. And so, yeah, I guess just like a call to kind of allow yourself to expand your mind a little more in that way, to allow more magical type experiences, if you will, or bigger timeline jump or timeline shifts, what have you, type experiences to enter your reality, because it really is like a sea of infinite possibilities. But it's kind of our own mind that's, you know, an energy state, and, you know, things like that, and subconscious mind and things like that are kind of drawing those potential possibilities in for us. So I feel like the more you kind of, you know, work on expanding and grounding and, you know, enhancing yourself in that way, the more you're kind of, the more flexible you're able to become while traversing through that infinity. So yeah, just a little delve in on that topic. So I won't delve into that too much more. You know, can always discuss more of that later, but I just thought just a quick little video to kind of discuss the idea and concept of, you know, the wonderful and exciting like potentials and possibilities while traversing through a sea of infinity as we are. All right, guys, hope you have a lovely, wonderful day. Sending you so much peace, love, light, and blessings as always.